The millionaire's angry words in Mandarin echoed through the luxury hotel lobby. Guests turned to watch, the air thick with tension. The manager's face burned red. He could not understand a single word. Staff stood frozen, afraid to step in. In the corner, a black maid gripped her mop tighter, her heart racing. She had spent years hiding her past, never letting anyone know who she really was. But when the millionaire's voice cracked with frustration, she stepped forward and spoke in perfect Mandarin. The millionaire's angry words in Mandarin echoed through the grand hotel lobby, bouncing off marble floors and gold-trimmed walls. Guests stopped mid-step, their eyes darting toward the commotion. The manager's forced smile was cracking, his voice stammering in English. Sir, I do not understand. Behind a housekeeping cart, Naomi gripped the handle of her mop tighter. Her faded uniform clung to her after hours of scrubbing floors, her back aching from work most guests never noticed. She had learned to be invisible in this place, to keep her head down, to survive. But today, the tension in the air made her chest tighten. She recognized the men shouting in Mandarin. She understood every word. His luggage was missing. Important documents had vanished. He was furious, and the manager's inability to respond was only making it worse. Naomi's mind raced. She had not spoken Mandarin in years, not since she left Shanghai under circumstances she never talked about. It was a part of her life no one here knew, and she had promised herself it would stay that way. But then she saw the man's hands tremble as he pulled out his phone, ready to call the police. The manager was sweating, stumbling over apologies, and the staff whispered nervously in the background. Naomi took a step forward, then stopped. If she spoke now, everything would change. People would ask questions she could not answer. Her past might catch up to her. The millionaire's voice rose again, sharp and impatient. The guests' eyes shifted between the two men, waiting for a disaster. And that was when Naomi did something she swore she would never do. She stepped into the center of the lobby, lifted her chin, and answered him in flawless, perfect Mandarin. The moment Naomi's words filled the air, the entire lobby froze. Her voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably fluent. The millionaire's eyes widened, his anger faltering mid-sentence. He asked, his tone shifting from rage to shock. Naomi replied softly. The manager's jaw dropped. Naomi, you speak Mandarin. His voice was almost a whisper, like he could not decide whether to be impressed or offended. Yes, she said simply, still addressing the guest. Your documents were placed in the VIP safe room, but there was a clerical error. I will take you there myself. The millionaire studied her face with an intensity that made Naomi's skin prickle. For a moment, she feared he recognized her, not just as a maid, but as someone from his past. Whispers rippled through the lobby. Staff who had never looked twice at her were staring as if she were a stranger. The manager, red-faced, gave a tight smile. Well, Naomi, since you apparently can assist, please handle this matter. Naomi led the guest toward the elevator. Inside, the polished steel doors closed, sealing them in. The millionaire leaned slightly toward her. Where did you learn to speak like a native? She hesitated. A long time ago. His eyes narrowed. Not just the language, your tone, your expressions, they are from Beijing. That is not something you learn in a classroom. Naomi's pulse quickened. She kept her gaze on the floor, praying he would not push further. But then he said something that made her heart skip. I knew someone, years ago, who spoke exactly like you. But she vanished without a word. The elevator chimed, the doors opened, and Naomi's hands tightened on the handle of the guest's suitcase. Because she knew exactly who he was. The room fell into a heavy silence. Every pair of eyes was on Evelyn, the black maid who had just spoken flawless Mandarin to them and everyone thought only the millionaire could communicate with. The translator sat frozen, unsure whether to keep his headset on or quietly leave. The millionaire's expression had shifted from shock to something else, something sharper. You speak Mandarin, fluently, he asked slowly, almost testing her. Evelyn lowered her gaze. Yes, sir. My grandmother raised me in Beijing until I was 13. I never told anyone here because no one ever asked. The words sliced through the air, and the manager's face flushed crimson. The board members began whispering among themselves, clearly impressed. The foreign guest, who had been growing frustrated moments ago, now leaned forward, smiling warmly at Evelyn. Your accent is perfect. It feels like home, he said in Mandarin. Evelyn translated his words to English without missing a beat. The room came alive, questions, laughter, and relief poured in. But the millionaire's eyes stayed locked on her, as if he was piecing together a puzzle. The manager, desperate to recover, tried to step in. Sir, I was just about to. The millionaire held up his hand, silencing him. No. Let her continue. For the next 15 minutes, Evelyn navigated the conversation flawlessly, catching idioms, subtle jokes, even delicate cultural nuances the translator had missed earlier. The tension that had once filled the air melted into genuine connection between the two businessmen. But then, something unexpected happened. The foreign guest's smile softened. In Mandarin, he asked Evelyn a question that made her heart pound. Does your family still live in Beijing? Her throat tightened. She hesitated, then glanced at the millionaire. No, she said quietly. They did once. But they are gone now. The room went still again. The millionaire's expression darkened, but this time, it was not suspicion, it was something closer to concern. And that was when Evelyn realized he might already know more about her past than she had ever told anyone here. The entire boardroom was silent, every gaze fixed on Grace. Even the millionaire's eyes had softened, his earlier frustration replaced with curiosity and awe. Miss Grace, he said gently, how did you? She smiled, her hands still folded neatly in front of her. I grew up in Beijing. My parents worked for a Chinese embassy program. I was their interpreter before I was even 16. The Mandarin-speaking board members nodded in respect, one of them even standing to bow slightly toward her. Your pronunciation is flawless, he said warmly. It's rare to hear such clarity outside our homeland. The manager, who had earlier rolled his eyes at Grace for standing too close, suddenly looked pale. Sir, I didn't know she could. The millionaire cut him off, his voice firm but calm. That's the problem. You didn't care to know. The air was thick with tension as Grace continued translating, her voice steady and professional. But under the table, her hands trembled. Not from fear, but from the weight of years she had been underestimated. When the meeting concluded, the millionaire turned to her again. Grace, I need someone like you on my personal staff. If you're interested, the salary will be, she shook her head gently. I appreciate the offer. But I think I'd like to use my voice for something bigger. To teach people that our worth isn't written on our uniforms. For a moment, there was nothing but quiet. Then, one of the Chinese executives smiled and said in Mandarin, courage like yours is worth more than gold. As Grace walked out of the boardroom, head held high, the same manager who once ignored her stepped aside. This time, he whispered, I'm sorry. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The victory was already hers. Direct hit if you felt moved by Grace's story, hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more inspiring true stories.